last section, we went over inputs and I challenged you to finish the cheat sheet. I went ahead and finished mine, and it took me about maybe like 10 minutes. I assume it's probably going to take you a little bit longer because you're brand new, but the whole point of this is repetition and challenging you to build something of your own and then come back and compare it to, I guess, the instructor. There are some gotchas here, and I wanted to go over them. So we left off at URL, and the number, search, and file are pretty much exactly like what we did before. If you didn't read in the documentation, hidden is something that's pre-filled out that the end user can't see. So you don't end up using a label for it. You don't use a label for button or reset, which they're buttons. They actually perform a function instead of needing a label. They're self-explanatory because of the label in the value, or the value is the label. All right, so then this is a weird one, and I copy pasted from the instructions in MDN documentation. This is a field set. So if you're not familiar with what a field set basically will logically group a section of options or a section of inputs that you can put together, and they'll stand out apart from the rest. You don't have to do this, but it looks much better typically when you're using radios or checkboxes. Now, you might be confused as the difference between a radio and a checkbox. And the difference is subtle but simple. Radio boxes are a singular option. You can only select one of these. You cannot select multiple. With checkboxes, you can select multiples or individuals or none. Radio boxes have to have at least one value selected. And so you'd select a default value, and let's take a look at this. So field set is the more or less container which holds all of the inputs, the radio inputs. And then you have a legend, and the legend specifies, a legend is basically the label for the field set. And you can see that radio field set is selected here. Now, like I said, these I copied, so they already have the IDs in them. We can delete these for now. And this one. What's important to note, though, is that these have a value. So when I select Dewey, for example, that's going to have a value of Dewey. Now, this won't matter to you much at all right now, but you need to know that is a requirement for checkboxes and radios, because that value is what gets passed when you click submit to wherever your action and method is. And if you're not familiar with what I'm referring to on action and method, remember every form will have an action at the minimum and will also, in some cases, specify the method. The action is required. All right, so we discussed checkboxes and radio boxes. I think checkboxes are exactly the same, so no reason to really dive much deeper into it. Range is a whole different beast. Now, range has so many options, it's not even funny, because the use case for range is pretty like unlimited. You can create labels for each individual increment. You can create options, min and max values, default. Then you can know like what your options are, and it'll be extremely useful and you'll be glad you did it. All right, so image is weird. So just like any other image, I'm not really sure why you would end up using this, to be honest. But I put it on here anyways, just in case this is something that you wanted to do. In my personal humble opinion, you'll never use this. But it's structured similarly to the regular image. I just don't know that you would ever do this. But anyway, so you can see you have a label, you have an image type, and it's got a source. I went to the internet, Googled a green button, and I saved it into my media file, a folder. And then I put // in front of the So I clicked on my file that I'm referencing from, click the file that I'm referencing to, copy relative path, and I pasted that in here. And then, like I said, in front of it, since this is up a directory and then media green, I had to put dot dot slash. All right, that pretty much covers everything from the inputs. And in a follow-up section a little bit later on, we're going to look into how we can make this a little bit more beautiful and add some flavor to it. In your cheat sheet, you could potentially want to show off to other people. Right now, you probably don't want to show this thing off. It's pretty ugly. Anyways, I'll see you in the next section. Chat with you then.